Welcome everyone to tonight's live stream. I'm going to be talking about what does it really take to transform your health. Now, quick story I know we have a lot of new people into the group, so I want to give a little bit of a background story and kind of get, some of you that are brand new up to date as far as, where we're at right now. So, quick story. 2012 is when I started my journey. I had a lot of gut related issues that I had to overcome. And ever since then, I've been sharing a lot of information about things that I basically have done to restructure my gut flora and basically deal with a lot of these things. And so I'm going to leave it just kind of like short like that because there's a lot of things that I want to cover today. But the important thing for you guys to understand, for those of you who are brand new, is to understand that, first of all, I'm not a doctor. I'm not here to treat, cure, prevent any kind of disease. I'm a beer brewer, okay? My background is from brewing beer. So I used to teach how to brew beer. And so to bridge the gap as far as, why am I teaching health and all this stuff is, well, one part is because, I had my own personal experience going through this. The second is because when I was researching health, I basically found out that 80% of your immune system is your gut. Okay, and it's basically your gut flora. And what I call the microbiome is basically your gut flora and the entire environment that surrounds that. And so as a beer brewer, basically what I realized was that what lives in our gut, okay, the same bacteria, the same probiotics that we need in our gut that keeps us healthy, it's what we use to make fermented foods and beverages, right? And so when I had that epiphany, all of a sudden, all of my brewing information became very helpful and very handy for me to actually go ahead and help myself out. And so what I want to do today is I want to share a little bit about some of the things that I've been doing, recently to, improve my own gut health. And this is basically, what I do. And the thing is like, for those of you who are brand new, I call this beer diet project. Okay, it doesn't involve drinking beer. It's using brewing or fermentation knowledge to improve your health. Okay, that's what it is. And so today, I'm going to do my best to connect some dots for you and help you see and understand some of the things that I see, because there's so much that I can teach. There's so much. And whenever I see people try to do the things that I do, sometimes I see people attempt to do some of the things that I do, and from my point of view, when I see what people are doing, it's almost like looking at a failed Pinterest project. Okay, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but I say that because there's so many people who really want to get healthier, and I've done like, I keep trying my best to like share everything that I know with you, but there's just so many layers and so much depth to the information that I teach. And it's because my background is what helps me. Okay, I'm not a doctor, but I have a lot of brewing and fermentation experience. And so I want to show you, some of the things that I've got going on, and so that you understand, why did I just do a 5-day, we'll call it liquid fast, but it was essentially, water and blue-green algae, basically just liquids, okay, for 5 days. And it's not the longest fast that I've done. I've done a 7-day just water only fast. This was a shorter 5-day with blue-green algae to kind of help out. But anyway, so some of the reasons why I do these fasting periods is because I'm looking to clean up the inside of my body. Okay. When I started to figure out that I had gut related issues and started to dive deeper and said, okay, there's a variety of bad bacteria or yeast overgrowth or things like that that can grow within you, I realized that, hey, as a beer brewer, if I wanted to grow probiotics, if I wanted to ferment, brew beer, I needed to start with a clean environment. I needed to clean and sanitize all of my equipment, and then I will start brewing beer. If my equipment isn't clean or sanitized, then whatever I brew, whatever I make, is going to be prone to infections. It's going to be prone to, getting some sort of wild yeast colonizing and spoiling that batch of beer. And so my mind thinks like a brewer, where I'm thinking, okay, I need to grow probiotics in my gut, because probiotics is what they make vitamins, they make key nutrients for you, they make hormones. Okay. And so this is what made sense to me. Okay. So if I was low in vitamin D, okay, I was getting poor sleep, my hair was falling off. I was told I was going to take hormones for the rest of my life, and there were hormones that I was definitely deficient on. The ones that are most common, for people here in the group, are things like serotonin, dopamine, melatonin. These are your feel good, happy hormones and your sleeping hormone, right? So if you don't have the right probiotics in your gut, if you don't have the right environment in your gut, then your body's not going to make hormones and all of these key nutrients, right? But you can just start growing probiotics in your gut. Okay, these are some of the mistakes that I see people make. Is they go to see some health professional, and they get sent home with probiotics and prebiotics, not knowing that you got to think of your gut like, well, let me back up a little bit. Well, your gut is like the environment. So think of it like a village, but you want to think of that village like there's populations. Okay, there's good people. Okay, there's good bacteria, and then there's bad people. There's bad bacteria. And if you have a village that has been colonized, that has been taken over by bad bacteria, when you send in good stuff, they're just going to get slaughtered. Okay, they're not in the right environment. They're not basically in an environment where they can thrive. And so my idea with gut health and everything that I do is that, hey, before I start to grow probiotics, I'm going to go in and I'm going to clean the environment. I'm going to actually, set up my microbiome, my gut, so that probiotics can actually thrive in there. And there's a variety of things that I do for that, right? So number one is I need to make sure that my probiotics are getting the right nutrients that I need, right? So this is where I rely on good foods and what I will call real foods. Okay, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this here in a second. But basically making sure that you have the nutrients, right? This is why I seek out foods that a lot of people have never even heard of, things like blue-green algae. There's beef organs. There's, different diets ranging from like root to fruit, in the plant-based version, and there's nose to tail in the carnivore side, and then everything in between, right? With Beer Diet Project, it's not about which one's better. It's about what makes it better, which is understanding some of these things that I'm going to talk about right now. So what I have here is a set of probiotics that I'm making. So these are pineapple probiotics, right? So if you follow what I'm doing, okay, and by the way, for those of you who are brand new, I'm showing a lot of the things that I'm doing on my Instagram account, which is Instagram at the Beer Diet Project. And so I just did 5 days of a fast. And basically with those 5 days, I just cleaned out my entire digestive tract. I just emptied it out. And basically that allows me to clean up. And now I have a clean slate. So now I can start taking probiotics and start to grow probiotics. And basically it's part of me restructuring and maintaining balance in my gut flora. Now, interesting, I was actually gone for the weekend. I took a last minute trip. And so I should have done these probiotics over the weekend. So I didn't, and that's okay. But here's the thing. So I got this pineapple, okay, and this pineapple wasn't fully ripe. And so it wasn't really what I would say, 100% ready to ferment, because usually when you're fermenting fruits, the more ripe they are, the more sugar they're going to have, and probiotics eat sugar, okay? This is one reason why I don't shy away from sugar. Sugar is needed. You just need to learn how to use it, okay? So things that I understand, that I hope that you guys understand, is little things like this. Like if you wanted to make probiotics, okay, I know I have coconut water in here. I have pineapple, and the pineapple is sweet. It was just kind of like, like the top half of the pineapple was still, needing to be a little bit more ripe. And then there's the other half that was a little more sweet. So I used more of the sweet side, to put in here, but I knew that I needed a little bit more of extra sugar. And so I ended up adding, if you can see it here, that's a slice of mango, okay? And that's because this mango is, a lot more ripe, and it has a lot of sugar. And so basically I'm feeding sugar to probiotics. That's what brewing beer is. It's basically feeding sugar to yeast, right? And so the thing about what I teach is that I'm not here to teach you a diet like, hey, you got to do probiotics, you got to eat keto, you got to eat this or that. I'm trying to teach understanding. I'm trying to teach you wisdom that you can actually apply in a variety of different ways. So my hope, okay, my wish for you is that you understand concepts like this so that you can adapt, so that you can actually understand like why are you even doing this if you are to do it. And the reason why I say this is because as I share what I do, okay, for those of you who are brand new, you're kind of catching me at a time where I'm starting to move into more advanced stuff. Last summer, I decided to go live for an entire year inside of Facebook on my fan page and show my entire transformation. That was because for the couple of years prior to that, I wasn't taking care of my health as good as I should have been. And my health kind of started to deteriorate. And so I was able to basically start over from scratch and do everything from the very beginning the way that I would do it if I were to be in the same situation I found myself in 2012, where I was gaining weight nonstop, my hair was falling off, I had depression, anxiety, low hormone production, tired all the time, all of these things that were going on. The things that I do, okay, now are not the same things that I did when I started out or that I would do if I were to start all over again. Okay, there's things that I do now that I can get away with that I wouldn't be able to do in the very beginning. Just because I take probiotics, it doesn't mean that everyone that's watching here should be taking probiotics, and or you should also know what kind of probiotics you need to take first, right? Because there's people who, if you have gut issues, okay, there's certain probiotics that can actually make you feel worse. If you have histamine sensitivities or issues, which is common with people that have like celiacs or a lot of like gluten issues, you probably shouldn't, touch fermented foods until you take care of, the foundation, right? Which is hydration, vitamin D, improving mitochondrial function, basically the things that we teach inside of this group. And so these are concepts that you want to understand and keep in mind that hydration is not about just drinking more water. Okay, hydration is a concept that you need to understand at a deep level. I just did 5 days of a water plus blue green algae fast. And you would think that I would be drinking, well, I was usually drinking about a gallon of water a day. You would think that, a gallon a day is plenty of water. But when you're detoxing, especially that aggressively, your amount of water needs to go up. And I found myself right around day 3, day 4, I was unloading a lot of toxicity, right? Because I still have toxicity, even though I'm about as lean as I've ever been in my entire life. I still have, some toxicity that I'm trying to get rid of. And that level of toxicity being flushed out of the body requires you to drink a lot more water. And so hydration is something that you have to continuously monitor and adapt to it. Sometimes you're going to be drinking a lot more water. Sometimes you're going to be drinking a lot less water. And that's why anytime that anyone asks me, like, hey, how much water should I be drinking? They are looking for a specific amount. Like they want me to tell them, hey, you need to drink exactly 3.78 liters or something like that. There's no such thing as that. Okay, nothing's going to tell you that, right? You have to intuitively, okay, you learn how to intuitively tell if your body is hydrated or dehydrated. Nobody teaches that, okay? And I wish that I could just give you a number, paint by the numbers kind of deal, but that's not how it works. And you're going to have to learn how to adapt and how to do a lot of these things. That's one of the big concepts that I want to share and talk about today. The second one is, as you can tell, with a background in brewing and fermenting beer and all these things, I like all things fermented, right? So one of the things that I'm doing now, so I just went out and got some sourdough bread. So you can see it right there, right? So this bread, okay, it's from a local bakery here, and they make this sourdough bread the traditional way. So basically they let the dough ferment. And, fermentation, basically what it does is that it basically digests food for you. It creates nutrients for you. It removes anti-nutrients from foods, right? So you're seeing a lot of conflicting information online. You have on one end of the spectrum, you have, for example, the vegan community talking to carnivores saying red meat causes cancer and this is good and this is bad and blah, blah, blah. And then there's other fight, right? They fight back and say, well, plants have oxalates and plants have all these anti-nutrients. Okay, there's always going to be conflicting information. We live in a very weird world. I don't know what to make of it other than you got to learn what is actually true. And unfortunately, what is true to me may not be true for you, but hopefully with what I share, you're going to start to see and understand that, the reason why I understand plant-based foods is because I understand fermentation. I also eat a nose-to-tail carnivore diet because I understand that there's nutrients that I can get in there. And I understand that if you don't buy foods from regenerative farming practices, then I don't care if you're carnivore or vegan or anything in between, you're not eating real food. And that's really the biggest message. I don't care if you're vegan, I don't care if you're carnivore, I don't care if you're anything in between. What I care and what I really want to share, like the reason why I am passionate about this is because I feel that if you understand that regenerative farming practices is the way to go when it comes to choosing what kind of foods to eat, then a lot of things are going to take care of themselves. Okay, what has happened with our country, not just our country, but around the world, is that our food supply has been hijacked, essentially. Okay, most people have forgotten what real food is, what it looks like, and how it's prepared. Okay, a lot of these things that I'm sharing with you, like the sourdough bread, the probiotics, and I have here a bottle of mead, right? I brewed this one back in 2017. All of these practices are ancient. Okay, they're not new. I'm not teaching anything new. If anything, I'm teaching you ancient, like about as ancient as it gets. Okay, everything that I know that has helped me comes from things like, books like these, Sacred Herbal Healing Beers. This is what I consider real medicine. Okay, not the modern day crap that they can't even tell you what it is or what it's going to do to your body. Now, when you get into the plant world, you can't just jump into it either. It's advanced, so you can't, that's why I don't start people there. But you have to understand that that's what I'm into. That's what I am going to be sharing with you. And, these are the concepts, like where they come from. So, all right, there's a couple things that I want to do, but before I do that, I want to check in and see if I have people watching live, because I want to make this a little bit more interactive today. I'm going to be going a little bit high level, a little bit more advanced than usual. And so for those of you who are live, I would love for you guys to, share with me your takeaways or, whatever I'm sharing, like if it's making sense. Let's see. I see Susan is here. Hello. Lupe is here. Good to see you, Christina. Awesome. All right. So I got some people live. That's good to know. So here's what I want to share. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to guide you through what is it that I'm doing and what can you expect if you are to, do what it is that I'm doing. So to get started, I want to read off from, one of my favorite Proverbs. And actually, I saved that over here. So let me share my other screen. Okay, so this is one of my favorite Proverbs. And the reason why I'm going to start with this is because I am looking for ways to pass down my information so that you get results, okay? People that come to me are looking to get more energy. They want to sleep better. They want to lose weight. You just want to learn how to feel your best. And I'm over here giving you the information that you need. But there's an interesting dynamic going on, and understanding this dynamic, what helps me and what's going to help you is, this proverb right here. Okay, so this is chapter 9, verses 7 through 9. Whoever corrects a mocker invites insults. Okay, whoever rebukes the wicked incurs abuse. Okay, do not rebuke mockers or they will hate you. Rebuke the wise and they will love you. Okay, the reason why I start out with this is because this is what happens. Whenever I reach out to people and try to offer to help them, okay, what happens is that people are turned off by it. They push away. And not only that, but when I talk to people and I ask people like, hey, what's your diet like? Oftentimes people tell me like, oh, I already eat healthy. I'm already taking vitamin D and a vitamin B supplement. And then I find out what they're actually eating and what kind of vitamin D they're taking, and it's not good. Okay. Lean meats, veggies, that's not a healthy diet. Okay. Just because you're going keto or vegan, that doesn't make it healthy. But if I try to rebuke, okay, someone that is, I want to say arrogant, but has an ego, what happens is that I end up being hated. Okay, even though I'm trying to like help you get energy, lose weight, and feel better, there's a part of you that may be resisting. And so really what I realize is that I'm finding for people who are wise and want me to rebuke them, because that's what I'm going to do if you work with me and ask me to help you tweak your diet. Because most people that I look at, your diet, it's just wrong. Okay, and I want to share with you why I think that is and what are things that I'm doing that I feel are really helping me out, so that you can see why the things that I do are working for me, why they make sense. And, like I said, oftentimes you hear people being told that, hey, you got to cut out sugar, you got to cut out grains, you got to cut out dairy. Well, I have dairy in my diet because that's where I get cholesterol, and that's the main ingredient that your body needs to produce hormones. I still have grains and sugar in my diet because you need sugar to grow probiotics. Okay. So it's not about cutting out specific foods. It's about understanding like, why would you do that? And if you have to cut them out, like understand why is it that you are cutting out those foods and what you need to be doing to be able to reincorporate those foods into your diet. So the analogy that has helped me more than anything is to understand that our gut is exactly the same as the root system of a tree. Okay, 80% of our immune system is your gut health. So things that I understand that help me with my diet and to make choices and to navigate and be able to eat all the different foods that I eat, and basically how I was able to restructure my gut flora, is just understanding nature, tapping into the laws of nature, how nature works. So the backstory for me is that I used to eat a lot of, I don't say necessarily junk food. I didn't know what I was doing. Put it that way. I was just like everyone else. Okay. You put it in front of me, it looks good. Okay. I thought that as long as I didn't eat Twinkies and I was doing good. Okay. Then I found out that, hey, all the white chocolate macadamia nut cookies, carrot cakes, and I don't want to say even 6-pack, but like 12 packs and even more than that of beer that I was drinking. I was a beer brewer. So hello, I used to drink a lot of beer. Clearly I damaged my liver from drinking so much. And I joke around that a lot of these concepts I probably came up with them when I was drunk. But anyways, what happened was that I was not eating good. And because I wasn't eating good, here's how I visualize things, okay? This is how I see the world. This is just me, sharing with you my point of view. Anything that goes into the body will end up in your gut, and your gut is just like a fermentation vessel. And the way that I see this is any food beverage, whatever goes in here, it's like compost. And that compost is going to grow probiotics or bad bacteria, depending. And that's my question to you. If you start to ask yourself that question, right? Well, right as you're about to take a bite out of that, fast food burger or whatever it is that you're eating, ask yourself, what is going to eat this in my gut? What's going to break it down? And when you understand that probiotics eat real food and that bad bacteria, the purpose of bad bacteria in your gut is to basically eat anything that is not real food. It's the easiest way to explain it. So junk food, food that has no minerals, that's not real food, by the way. I don't care if the apple looks shiny and bigger than organic ones. If it has no minerals, there's no probiotics in there. That's what people don't understand, okay? There's no probiotics in there, and something has to break it down. And it's not going to be probiotics because probiotics need minerals and they need nutrients that you only find in real foods. And so if you have a piece of an apple that has a lot of sugar but no minerals, that's just an invitation for wild yeast to show up and go to town and grow and colonize. And that's what I understand. Okay, that's what happened to me, was that I started to grow a lot of bad bacteria. I had yeast overgrowth, which, when you have yeast overgrowth, when you brew beer, you realize, this is just being made. So, I mean, you can kind of see a little bit of bubbles, but not really. But you usually see a lot of bubbles in fermentation. That's gas. Okay, that's a byproduct of fermentation. So if you have yeast overgrowth and you're wondering, why am I so gassy? Why am I so bloated and feel like I have, like air is being pumped inside of me? Why do I have constipation? It's because of the bacteria that lives in your gut. That's what's creating all of that. Okay, that's why I went on a fast, and that's why I fast regularly, because I'm looking to clean up this part right here, the entire digestive tract and my gut, so that I can grow probiotics. Now, the reason why I share, and I brought this meat with me and show you the year, right, that I brewed this, 2017, right? 3 years later, this is still conditioning, okay? And this is to give you an idea of the time frame that it takes for probiotics, for good bacteria to clean up. Okay, because that's what happens when you're fasting, is you're cleaning up, right? So if it takes 3 years to make wines, okay, so that the wine, like this wine is going to be extra clean, it's going to be just delicious, and I can't wait to try it. But this is how I see myself, right? When I'm fasting, 5 days is nothing. It's nothing. Like, our guts are so big. When you stretch it out, it's the size of a football field. You got trillions of bacteria and microbes living in there. You need a lot more than 5 days to condition, to clean up, right? I'm 8 years into my journey. And so I share that because if you want to learn what it really takes to transform your health, which is what today is about, you have to understand that you're not going to do it by popping a pill, by taking a supplement, by changing your diet for 1 week, for 30 days, 90 days, 6 months, heck, a year. This is a lifestyle change. Okay, moving forward, as I learn more about this, I just continue to get better. And it's not that I diet, I'm just learning how to be healthier. I'm just learning how to take care of my body, and I'm sharing that with others because I now understand what happens when you don't pay attention to this. Okay, if you don't take care of your health, if you don't pay attention to what's going into your body, what's happening is that whatever food that you're eating, okay, good or bad, it's going to start growing some sort of bacteria. And if you have bad bacteria colonize in your gut, okay, this is the biggest takeaway. If you have bad bacteria colonizing in your gut, then it doesn't matter if you start eating good food. If you all of a sudden switch to organic and start doing raw, fermented, or whatever foods, because now you have a problem that you have something that colonized in your gut, and There's some bacteria that are easy to get rid of, and then there's other that are not so easy to get rid of. Okay, parasites, they won't leave you. They're very hard to get out of your gut, and most people, that's basically what you're dealing with, right? And so for me, like, this stuff makes sense just because of all of this background, that I have. And so my challenge has been, how do I go out and share this with other people? Like, how can I transfer like what's in here and pass it down to other people? 8 years I've been sharing this information. Okay, everything that I talk about is basically improving your gut health, which is basically boosting your immune system. 80% of your immune system is your gut health, is your gut flora. If you don't understand, okay, if you don't understand like what I talk about, most people don't, then the only thing that's stopping you from actually doing this is yourself. Okay, it's you not willing to go out and actually try things, for yourself. And this is what I see happens. Okay, even if you join my program, not everyone that joins my program does the things that I talk about, and that's the challenge that I'm looking to overcome, because I'm not here to get people to, get into this whole beer diet project thing. No, like, what I'm looking for is, I'm looking to create 1,000 success stories of people that actually take what I teach and totally transform their health. Okay, that's my goal. And I can't do that with just information alone, because like I've said many times before, I've shared my entire process multiple times. And the reason why most people don't get it is because there's a couple things going against you. Number one, I know that there's a lot of information. Brewing beer is a lot of information. I mean, I wrote an entire book on it. I have like 15 or close to that amount of books on the topic. There's a lot of depth to this information. So the first thing is, don't wait until you know everything to get started. That's like one of the first things. I start out people with drinking water. If you can't drink water, if you can't make that a habit, you're screwed, because that's the foundation to everything. Water is what drives digestion. Your body needs water to produce stomach acid. It needs water to produce energy. The way your body produces energy is through a hydrogen oxygen exchange. H, hydrogen, O, oxygen. Water is H2O, hydrogen and oxygen. It's the raw material for your body to produce energy. So if you can't drink water, okay, if you have a hard time getting yourself to drink at least 2 quarts, 2 liters of water a day, you have serious issues, okay? But I understand that that's basically one of the main reasons why a lot of people have digestive issues, is because they don't even drink enough water. Like, they haven't even made that a habit. That's one thing. The second thing is perfectionism, the need to do things perfect. Okay, our education system, the way that it teaches us is basically, it's black and white. You either pass or you fail. And the way that I teach is that your biggest lessons are going to come from the mistakes that you make. Done is better than perfect. I would much rather you try things, even if it's just throwing spaghetti at the wall, because that way I can actually see what you're doing and I can correct you. And if you're wise, you're going to be seeking that correction. Okay? If I tell you that you're doing something wrong and you hate me for it, then I can't help you. But if you actually show up, you do the work, you actually make the changes to your diet, and you basically come to me, like, think of it like you're borrowing my brain and say, hey, how is this affecting my gut? And I can look at your diet and basically tell you how I see things. What are changes that I would make if I were to be in your position, right? The reason why I'm able to eat bread right now is because I've reduced the amount of yeast overgrowth in my body. The reason why I was able to reduce yeast overgrowth in my body is because I understand things like hydration, vitamin D, pH, temperature. Anything that grows in your body, whether it's yeast, whether it's bad bacteria, whether it's a parasite, it's growing there because there's a specific environment that allows it to grow. And the easiest way to understand this is strep throats. Okay, when you get a strep throat, you don't all of a sudden contract some sort of like strep bacteria and it gets into your body. No, you already have strep bacteria in your body, but it's dormant. What allows it to wake up is your body temperature dropping. It's your pH becoming a little bit more acidic. And the combination of that is what basically allows it to wake up. And once that bad bacteria wakes up, it wants to eat. And what does bacteria and all these things eat? They eat you, right? This is where you start to see antibodies going up, right? When you have different kind of bad bacteria and things waking up inside of your body, they start to eat you, okay? And that's, again, that's what I understand. So let me share again, go back to this drawing, because so people ask me like, okay, like what, you're eating sourdough bread, like isn't bread, like doesn't that have gluten? Doesn't that have, it's bread, like wouldn't that turn into sugar, right? Like wouldn't that affect your yeast kind of thing? Well, again, you have to understand that I've already taken care of this part. So just because you see me eating bread, it doesn't mean that you're going to be able to eat bread just because it's sourdough and it's fermented. Okay, coffee is another one, right? I'm starting to drink coffee again. It's, fermented, right? So it's good for me. But again, I've already alkalized my body, okay? Coffee can actually, mess the pH and, cortisol, it's a hormone that can be affected by caffeine. So you have to learn like all of these little details. Like I look at the body in a holistic way where one system affects a lot of other things. So one thing to understand about the reason why I'm able to eat sourdough is because I no longer have bad bacteria. Some of you are watching my, like the highlight reel of my life right now. You didn't see, I'm talking to those of you who are brand new, those of you who have been following me for a while, you saw me, since last year doing all kinds of ketogenic diets, basically no sugar for months at a time, right? Drinking a green smoothie with like coconut oil, avocados, like nothing sweet about it, bland. That was rough, but that's what it took for me to get rid of that yeast overgrowth so that I can get to this point where now I can enjoy things like bread again, right? But again, I'm not going to go buy just any kind of bread because a seed, a grain, okay, here's the level that I look at things. Number one, if the grain doesn't come from other plants that have been mineralized, that have grown in soils that are rich in nutrients and minerals, then that grain itself, the information, what will be basically the DNA of the grain, is not going to be good. The bacteria that lives within the grain is not going to be good. This is one thing that you have to understand about grains. Everything that you need to create life for that grain is inside of that grain. All the probiotics, like there's an entire microbiome inside of that grain, bacteria. There's a lot of things that are in there. And what happens with that grain, okay, this is basically what sourdough bread is. When you grind it up and it turns into flour, okay, you take all of the nutrients, which will be basically starch or protein, which, gluten is a protein, and basically fermentation is nothing more than a continuation of the digestive process. So you're taking starch and you're essentially digesting it. Okay, that's what fermentation is. It's digestion, and beyond digestion, basically starch, it's a long chain of sugars. Those sugars, right, are broken up into simpler sugars, and you continue to break it down until you get to a single, glucose kind of sugar, right? Brewing beer is just basically taking that glucose and you turn that into beer. Just allow it to keep going, basically, right? Once you get to the smallest molecule, like it continues on, and that's how you make beer. And in that process of making beer, right? What's fermenting here? It's yeast. Now here I'm talking about good yeast. Brewer's yeast is a probiotic. It's a good yeast. It's not a wild yeast like yeast candida, yeast albicans, which is the bad kind of yeast that people refer to when they have gut issues. Okay, so make that distinction there. But anyway, so that yeast, when it takes glucose and turns it into beer, guess what? It makes vitamins. Okay, a beer like Hefeweizen, which is wheat in German, right? Weizen, it's wheat. Hefe means yeast. Yeast wheat beer is basically the name of that style of beer, is very well known for having high levels of vitamin B12. And that's because the brewer's yeast and the ingredients used, that's what they make, right? It's vitamins, and it makes it through the fermentation process. So sourdough bread, that's basically what's going on. You take some of the starches, some of the proteins like gluten, and you're breaking it down. And so when I'm eating that, it doesn't require a whole lot of digestion. And this is what happens, is that when people are eating foods that are not prepared this way, okay, that are not, like, especially plant-based foods, if they're not properly prepared, if you don't remove the oxalates, if you don't remove the phytic acid, right? One of the things that I understand from brewing beer is, grains have, a lot of anti-nutrients, and you need to be able to remove phytic acid from it. That's why we do what's called an acid rest in brewing beer. Basically, that means to soak. It's kind of like sprouting, but not quite sprouting, but it's basically soaking grains. This is why you should soak grains, nuts, seeds, and things like that, is to remove some of these anti-nutrients. These are things that, to me, like, it's like a no-brainer. Like, I just know it needs to be done, but most people are completely unaware of this. And so what they're doing is they're going out and they're buying regular bread. Okay, they're buying bread at their convenience store. It's not fermented, it's not sourdough. So first of all, it's not pre-digested. It has no vitamins. On top of that, okay, so now you're basically feeding your body hard to digest starch, hard to digest proteins, aka gluten, right? When you eat sourdough, you're not eating, high levels of gluten. A lot of the proteins that are in those grains, especially if you get it from good bakeries, they will get good grains. A lot of those proteins are pre-digested, meaning that your body doesn't have to work as hard to digest. Okay, so you're buying regular bread, hard to digest starch, hard to digest gluten, hard to digest fats. Usually they're made with bad oils, polyunsaturated fats, a lot of vegetable oils. But on top of that, they need some sort of food preservative so that they can stay on the shelf for months at a time without growing mold and decomposing, which, that's what bread is supposed to do. This sourdough bread is only good for about a week unless I freeze it or, find a way to store it. And that's how it should be. And so all of this bread, now you have food preservative. These food preservatives, what they do is they inhibit fermentation. They inhibit digestion. They're essentially meant to keep the starch from breaking down, because mold or whatever will grow on those breads sitting at the shelf. They're trying to eat that starch. They're trying to digest it, right? It's a food source. That preservative keeps it from going there. So now you're eating a preservative that's going into your body. You're eating this bread. The gluten's already hard to digest. On top of that, you're feeding your body preservative. Now you have food stuck in your gut and you're wondering why you're constipated. I mean, this stuff, like, again, it makes so much sense to me, but the more that I look at what people are doing, it makes me sad to think that we're not taught this in school. This is basic nutrition, I think. And it's just that we've forgotten how to prepare food. So this is the issue that we have going on. And so what I am doing to basically help more people out is I'm starting to come up with ways to go out and help people go through this process of, learning how to actually incorporate some of the things that I do, and I realize now that, more information isn't going to help, because I have a lot of guys. I have so much information in this group, okay, that I promise you that if you take this information and you share it with some doctors, there's going to be a lot of doctors who don't even know what you're talking about. Okay, that's how sad it is in the healthcare world. But anyways, more information wasn't the answer. To me, what I'm finding is really working out well is challenges. And this is one reason why I'm so grateful, okay, so grateful for, people that are in this group, especially, Christina, for running and hosting, starting to host some of these hydration challenges, because I'm finding that getting people to just take that one simple little step and be consistent with it, that's what's going to create a lot more impact, and that's what's going to create a lot more success stories. Because what I do isn't an overnight thing. Okay, the biggest challenge is that what I do takes a while, because what you're doing is you're brewing in your gut. Okay, that's how I see myself, really. It's like I'm teaching you how to brew in your own gut. And again, 2017, right? That's how long this has been. And my question to you is, what's brewing in your gut? And whatever it is that's brewing, the thing is that every day makes a difference. Okay, you need at least like a good 90 days to brew, to eat consistently. It's something to see that change, to see that difference. And what happens oftentimes is that, people are good to go a week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. Once you get into that 4 week range, it's hard. And I'm telling you from experience, because it wasn't easy for me. Okay, it took a lot for me to cut out things like bread from my diet and do certain things, right? I did about 6 months of this green ketogenic plant-based smoothie. Okay, that's fucking boring. I'm not gonna throw, at you like this is the best diet and it's fun. Like, I mean, it can be fun, but there's a lot of things that I had to do that are not. They're boring. But you know what? It has to be done. Okay, and so to help more people, I've been hard at work coming up with simple things that I can have people do consistently over time, to where even if you screw up everything else, okay, as long as you do things like hydration, as long as you're finding a way to boost your vitamin D levels, as long as you're finding a way to improve your mitochondrial function, like these are my top 3 biggest levers, and I've given you guys everything that I use for it. So now I need to create challenges. And so that's basically what I'm going to be doing. And this is why I'm super excited, because I have a couple of challenges that I'm putting together, which are going to actually start next week, inside of my coaching group. So for those of you who are inside of my coaching group, stay tuned. I'm actually going to be talking a little bit more about this tomorrow inside of that group, and going to be sharing with you, like, what are certain things that you guys can do, because again, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for people who want to create their own success story. And I'm at this point where I'm the kind of person that, like, I take responsibility. I like to take responsibility for people, for your success. But unfortunately, I can't do that, because even if I give you 100%, which it's all that I can promise, like when you talk to me, when you message me, I'm going to give you all that I've got. Okay, I'm going to give you 100% of me. But unfortunately, it doesn't work that way, where whatever I tell you to do, like, that's not going to fix you. You have to take what I give you and you have to run with it. So I can only give you half of the equation, which is I give you 100% of me. Here's all the information. Here's the steps. Then you have to take that, and now you have to give 100% of you. You have to actually show up. You have to actually do the work. You have to hydrate. Okay. You know when you're being good. You know when you're not being good. I'm not always good. I'm going to be eating bread. Okay. I'm eating pizza tomorrow. All right. So I'm not always eating my ketogenic smoothie, my plant-based this or that or whatever, right? And I experiment, with things, right? There's reasons why I'm adding a little more carbohydrates to my diet, which I'll talk about, probably down the road. It's just part of my experiments. But again, I'm teaching and sharing this because my diet, as you can see, it's not like a one thing. It's not, like I've done vegan, I've done carnivore, I've done, all kinds of different things. I'm always looking to improve. And that's the biggest thing, is that health is a skill. Wherever it is that you're at, take whatever you have available to you and run with it and just find a way to make it better. And I say this because as of lately, one of the biggest ones that that I've been getting, which by the way, I'm thrilled that I'm getting more people asking me about distilling distilled water, right? And at the same time, here's what I don't like to see happen. Okay, understand that the things that I do them because it makes more sense to do them than to not do them. But that being said, I don't want that to ever stop anyone from, again, perfectionism. Just because you can't afford a water distilling machine, it doesn't mean that you can't do other things. It doesn't mean that you can't mineralize your water, right? You can mineralize your water. And oftentimes people ask me like, well, if I can't get a water distilling, that I can't do the program. No, that's not the case. Like, do what you can with what you have, right? Start out with, mineralizing, and then, there's questions that obviously, if you ask me, the reason why I use distilled water, don't buy distilled water at the store, by the way. I always have to remember that, because people that are brand new, forget that, things like that, like distilled water from the store comes in plastic. That plastic will leach into the water. That's bad water. Okay, that's not what you want to do. I have a water distilling machine at home that doesn't come in contact with plastic. I put everything in glass. Right, that's why you see people posting pictures of their mason jars in glass. They're getting that from watching me do that kind of stuff. Also, mineralizing that water, because distilled water has no minerals. That doesn't mean that you can't drink distilled water. There's uses for it. And again, this is part of understanding water and hydration, which, I'll leave that to another point. But anyways, my point with that was that if you can't get a water distilling machine, okay, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't do some of the things. And obviously, like, it's hard for me to tell you, like, if you can, if you should be drinking a lot more water or less water when you don't have a clean source of water, because then we don't know what's in your water. Okay, I don't know, you don't know. You can look up your water quality report, which every city makes available, but even if you pull that up, you still don't know what's in that water. Like, I don't know if you, like, when I moved to Arizona, okay, I used to live in Washington State before I moved to Arizona. Washington State, where I live, Pacific Northwest, I was on the peninsula side, west of Seattle. They have really good water, really, really good water, soft water. Like, you can just tell, like, the difference. Like, when I moved to Arizona, our water supply here, not all of Arizona, but, like Phoenix metro area where I'm at, water is hard. There's a lot more contaminants in the water, and I mean, you can tell, like, when you wash your clothes or take a shower, like, your hair is just not as good, like, your clothes don't come out really as soft. Those things, like, matter. So, like, if you're living in a place where you have relatively good water, then maybe a simple filter can help you out. Here in Arizona, for example, like, if I go to Sedona, which is just 2.5 hours north of where I'm at, they have a spring source there where I get really good water, right? So it just depends on, like, where you're at. And so you have to do, whatever you can with what you have. If you can't afford a water distilling machine, try searching for a spring source near where you're at. That's an option. I mean, I don't know. There's always things that you can do. And if you can't, and if none of that works, whatever, here's what you do. You just set a goal to save, even if it takes you a year. You just save up for it, and that that's your next improvement, even if it takes you a year. It took me years before I bought my own water distilling machine. Okay, I didn't buy it when I started. Okay, I only bought it like a couple of years ago. So let that sink in. Okay, don't make excuses for not wanting to improve your diet. There's always an improvement that you can make. And that's really what it takes to transform your health. It's a change in attitude where you basically realize that no matter where you're at, you can always improve and you can always do better. Where I'm at, I'm still looking to improve. I'm still looking to get better. And Christina Pizza, I'm happy for you. And by the way, this whole pizza thing, I'll share a little bit more about it, but I actually found a place. I've been looking for a place that will make pizza out of sourdough bread, and I finally found one. So I have to try it. I have to go and see if it's any good. There's obviously I have to go see if because one thing is the dough, which is one of the biggest one. Now I gotta see if they actually use good ingredients like the what kind of tomato sauce they use. Because if you go to like cheap places, the tomatoes that they use are so bad. They're so acidic. Which again, that kind of stuff, like, when you digesting starch, like, the bread and the pizza, you need to digest it in your mouth. And your mouth is more alkaline than your stomach because starch requires a more alkaline environment. But if you have a highly acidic tomato sauce, it inhibits your enzymes from your salivary glands. And that's why when you eat those cheap pizzas, a few minutes later, you're going to have massive gas. And that's because you didn't digest that properly. Okay. So these are things that, like, again, like to me, like they just make sense. And that's what Beer Diet Project is about. It's about understanding what's happening as you're eating food. It's not just choosing the food, but it's how is it being broken down and what's growing in your gut because of it. All right. Let me check some of these comments. And let me know, anyone that's watching live, if you have, number one, if you have any questions about what I just covered, or if you just want to ask me anything about my fast, I'm going to be taking probiotics, and I have some prebiotics that I'm taking, which is something that I'm going to be talking about here over the next couple of weeks. Like, I'm basically regrowing and restructuring my gut flora. Like, this is the stage that I'm on. So you're going to see me doing some of these, some of these things here. So if you guys have any questions about that, go ahead and ask. I'm going through the comments right now. Krista, you're here. Good to see you. Lupe, I'll have to watch after. Wi-Fi slow in Mexico. All right, I'll send you the replay. Christy, I can be your success story. I have numerous issues that have been ongoing for 20 years, psoriatic arthritis, fibromyalgia, and a whole list of things. I want to get healthy. All right, Christy, I'm going to reach out to you and I'll do a microbiome audit and see if I can help you. Let's see, Christina. Yep, another challenge for you, Christina. I think you're going to like this one too. All right. Patty, I see you. All right, if anyone has any questions, go ahead and comment now. And in the meantime, anyone, if you've been through the videos and, if what I teach makes sense and you want to, improve your gut health, if you want to get more energy, if you want to learn how to sleep better, feel better, if you want to learn the things that I do, so, you can get a lean toned body, which basically by that, I mean, detox your body, because when your body's toxic, your body's going to basically build body fat. Or if you have a hard time gaining weight, okay, it's the same issue. It's a gut-related issue that your body's not uptaking nutrients. Okay, either you have a parasite that's eating pretty much everything that you're eating, or you're basically just not absorbing any nutrients, and that's why there's a lot of people that sometimes get super skinny, not in a good way, and have a hard time gaining weight. It's still the same kind of issue. Anyways, if you want to learn more about different things that you can do to improve your gut health, to regrow probiotics, come and optimize, and I'll go ahead and reach out to you and I'll connect and, see if I can help you by doing a microbiome audit, trying to figure out where you're at and what is it that you need help with. But all right, other than that, that's all that I've got for today. That's some of my updates, what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm going to be tapping into this honey meat here. I'm hoping that these probiotics are ready by tomorrow. And if so, you'll see me posting on Instagram, and I'll be sharing a little bit more about the prebiotics that I'm using. Another reason why I'm doing sourdough bread is because that's what's going to help me, regrow probiotics. Christina, optimize. All right. I'll reach out to you and help you, which I already do, but thank you. Thank you for the engagement. But yeah, that's another reason why I'm doing sourdough bread. It's, you know, part of my plan to regrow probiotics. Again, I'm using that as food source, but I'm also taking probiotics, you know, while I'm doing that. So there, you know, it's just little things like that that, you know, to me, like those combinations make sense. And I want you guys to understand them. I want you to see what I do. But, you know, keep in mind like the context. Okay, keep in mind that what I'm doing right now, I'm at a stage that's a little bit more advanced. Okay, if you are brand new to my world, I would highly recommend going to my fan page. Okay, I have a year's worth of videos where I show every single day what I was doing to research on my gut flora. And a lot of that information is probably better for you starting out because you get to see me do things that you want to emulate, because I was doing things that, you know, I was taking into account that I still had, you know, a lot of stuff in my gut. You know, recently I've gone through a massive restructure, which is why I'm now able to experiment and do some of these other things. But anyways, so those are some resources for you. I'm not seeing any more comments or questions, so I'm gonna cut this out. But if you do have, if you're watching the replay, feel free to you know, comment or just message me, and I'll get in touch with you. All right. Thank you everyone for being here. Hope you guys got value today, and I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.